Hey, Michael Vick here, digital learning coach over at Stafford Middle School. Today we're going to talk about this really cool project that I worked with the Social Studies Department on called the Frisco ISD mock election. And it's not like a mock election where we voted for actual candidates. This is really more of a historical interest survey, I think, would probably be the best way of saying it. And let me just kind of describe what it is. So here is a Google form. And you have these questions: which best aligns with how you feel about the federal or central government? Strong central government, or are you more about states' rights? And you remember this was a big deal in the American Revolution. And so each, depending on how you answer, kind of aligns you with some presidents and disaligns you with some other historical presidents. We're talking Washington, Adams, Lincoln, Jackson. And so you can see all of these questions are really important parts of the U.S. history curriculum and what each president kind of aligns with. And so this is a great way to kind of get some interest in your students, get some investment in your students. And so what we did was we took this to the next level. We made it school-wide. And so you can see we have 446 responses. Considering we have 500 in person, that was very, very good. Anyway, so if you look at kind of our response sheet, let me kind of go over what we did. Now, this is a little complicated, so you may want to get with your DLC and they can help you through this. But you can see here their answers for each one of those questions. And this is how many points they get for each candidate. So ignore this line here for a second because that was kind of a tie. Let me hide that row. There we go. So you can see here this person had 4 votes for Jackson, 4 for Jefferson, so 3 of their answers aligned with Jefferson, 5 of them aligned with Lincoln. And so you can tell they aligned mostly with Lincoln. And that doesn't really mean much, but when you start looking at percentages, you can see they were 71.43% aligned with Lincoln. And overall, you can see that is the highest match. Now, some of them tied. If you look down here in row 7, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Washington all tied. So they didn't really have a choice. They kind of tied with all of them. But that kind of gives them some information too. And so what we did was from here, as soon as the student filled it out, we set up so that they would receive an email right away saying, you aligned with this person. And then they would get this really cool I voted sticker. And we did that by using Mule. It's an add-on. So add-on Mule, and then you open it and you set up like a template for the email, and then it puts in different mail merges. Anyway, it's kind of one of those things where you can work with your DLC on. But it was pretty much like that. We set up the questions to match percentages, and then so we did this 4 years ago. Or Ms. Kranzberg did this with another digital learning coach, Kristy McCoy, who was here at Stafford before me 4 years ago, and they did the same thing. And then I guess 4 years from now, we'll be doing it again. All right, so we're going to go interview Ms. Kranzberg right now so we can kind of get her take on the origination of it and where it went from there. Cool. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. With Ms. Jen Kranzberg, 8th grade social studies teacher here at the wonderful Stafford Middle School. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about what we did. What was it, like 3 or 4 months ago?
October.
Yeah, our mock election. And so why don't you talk about it a little bit?
About when I first got here 6 years ago, it wasn't election time yet, but we were talking about how in the coming years we were going to do a mock election because as a part of history teaching, we like to every 4 years kind of get the kids to understand the election process. So when I first got here, I was hesitant to do the public one of whoever was running at the time because truly I want kids to understand why we elect and how we choose our people versus just picking what the public says or their parent says, because I want them to make the decision for themselves. So I got with Kristy McCoy and we came up with this really cool way to do a mock election using the first 4 presidents and then adding in Jackson and Lincoln. And so it's a lot of fun that way because the kids get to see who they align with based on their ideals.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special cameo from Kristy McCoy.
As DLCs, we love helping make magic happen. Mrs. Kranzberg came to me with this fantastic idea about transforming the 2016 mock election into something that reflected the standards in 8th grade social studies. We discussed which historical candidates are highlighted, which stances they had, and then we just ran with it from there.
And then this year, that was the first one. The second one that we did, we decided to add Texas history and put the first 3 presidents of the Texas Republic just for fun to see who they would align more with.
So 7th grade did a similar version, but 7th grade's all about Texas history, which I'm sure you know. So there's different set of questions, and then the response sheet kind of aligns them with one of the first 3 presidents of the Republic of Texas. So that's kind of how we did it for 7th grade. It was quite an ordeal to redo the questions and redo the formulas and everything. But after you get the hang of it, it becomes a little bit easier.
Houston or Lamar. Anson Jones was the 3rd one, but he tends to align with Houston anyways. So it was really fun to see who the kids in 7th grade, after kind of just touching base and they're actually getting to that part of history anyways, who they would vote for themselves. So that's kind of what the mock election is all about.
So like one of the most difficult things that any teacher knows is getting some sort of investment from the kids. And, you know, they have to answer this questionnaire about their likes and dislikes, things they agree with, disagree with. And then it kind of matches them up based off a certain percentage with one of the presidents, or for Texas history, one of the early Texas presidents. Were they called presidents?
Yeah, when they were a republic, yes.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is just a beautiful way to make that happen. After they pick the person, like, oh, I wonder, you know, I never really liked Andy Jackson and all the wars he started or whatever, but you know what, I really did I side with him on some things, you know. And when you first brought this up to me, I remember I'm like, mock election at a public school, we're gonna be on the news.
Yeah.
And so, and then we actually had people come and vote. So people here at this school were coming and voting. And so I hope the kids thought about the mock, and they also got the little stickers too.
Yes.
Was that just this year that we did
No. So also at the end of voting, we try to do the I voted stickers. If we can get them from like the county or something, we do that. But this year we ended up just printing them ourselves. We went online because of COVID. They actually have them online, and we just did them on labels and had the kids put their I voted sticker on. It was really cute. Some were putting on their computers.
Yeah,
some put it
I still
on
see some on some of the Chromebooks.
Yep, yeah. Some put it on their school badge. So it was kind of fun to see that they were excited to wear their I voted badge too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I could pull up the numbers, but we had pretty much everybody vote. And 6th grade did it this year too, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so like we had a whole school historical vote.
Yeah. 6th grade did with 8th grade, so they did the previous U.S. presidents, and then 7th grade did the Texas history one.
So I haven't asked you this. Are we going to do this next year, even though it's not a 4-year election? I mean, we can or can't.
We can or can't. It's kind of up to us. We usually just do it every 4 years because it's usually a great time to do it, but there's no reason you couldn't do it every year.
Yeah, the 7th graders, because they did the Texas one. I mean, at least maybe just do it for 8th graders next year. Because you're right, the 6th graders doing it. Well, we might want to do Texas. I don't know. It could be a good. It doesn't have to be like school-wide this big. No. You could easily turn this into like your own individual class. Kind of getting some sort of investment from your kids.
Yeah, good for discussing election process and how you vote and why you look at what the person stands for versus voting for a person.
Beats like a pros and cons chart for every president where kids are falling asleep in class, you know, beats that. So yeah, that's the mock election, and it was very successful here. Several schools did it. I know Lawler, Wester, Staley. What other school? Because you were talking to some other ICs in the district about it.
I know in the past Griffin did it, so I'm not sure if they did it this year, but I know Wester was 100% on board. I'm not sure what other schools, because a lot of them reached out and got the materials online because it's a Google form, and then made their own copies. So I'm not sure how they did it, but I did get some feedback, like from Danny at Wester, and loved it. Thought it was so great with her kids because it was fun. What's fun about the mock election is to see where the kids fall. So when they get Lincoln, they're so excited. They just stand up and cheer, I got Lincoln. And it's so fun to see. And then some are like, oh, I got Washington. That's interesting. That's cool. You know, and then some of them get Jackson and they're like, I got Jackson. Wait. And when they go back and read kind of what Jackson stood for and how they picked some of that stuff, they go, oh. And it doesn't mean it would change their beliefs or anything, but it really helps them see, oh, this is where I kind of fall. This is where I align. So it was really neat to see that and have the critical thinking piece that came afterwards for the kids, which we as adults kind of do all that beforehand and then vote for the person we want. And then hopefully, and we do that beforehand and then walk away and are kind of like, I think I did the right thing. And then that's kind of, I mean, at least for me, that's it, because I figure once I voted, that's it. But it's really neat to see afterwards the kids get the result and who they aligned with and how the critical thinking piece comes along. So that's my favorite part.
It was fun. So mock election, use forms. We use Form Mule on a Google Sheet. Use the graph that you can make in Google Sheets. And so we put all that together to make a really cool lesson. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for listening. Bye.